Well, hello everyone, this is Sheila back with another tutorial. This time I'm doing a baby blanket, and this is a pattern, one of my own patterns, and this pattern is reversible. It's the same on either side, and I have a swatch here to show you what the pattern is going to look like. That's one side, and you turn it over and it's the same, so it is a reversible pattern. This was a swatch I did for my for this channel, Sheila's Just Knitting, quite some time ago. So there is an actual tutorial for the stitch, how to do this stitch. It's very simple, actually, nothing to it. But this is the blanket I'm doing for a lady in the United States, and this blanket, the number of stitches, I have 96 stitches on here, and it would normally come out 28 inches wide by, I do 30 inches depth for the blanket. But this pattern does come out wider, so it's quite possible this pattern's going to be wider than 28 inches. But I am using, these are Addy. And as you can see, the needle on a cable, and that's the only problem with them, is they do tend to curl like that. And I have put them in hot water to try to straighten them, but straighten them a little bit, but not much. But you don't notice it when you're knitting, because you're just holding the needles like this and knitting away. But anyway, these are, if I can get close enough to show you, 7mm, and they are 50 centimeters long. For US it says 10.75. That must be the equivalent to 7mm. I don't know that. Anyway, they're 7mm, 50 centimeters long, and these are Addy. They are made in Germany. I have to get in the right distance from the camera to be able to read it, but that's it anyway. So I have started off with 96 stitches, and I've knit the first 6 rows in garter stitch, which is just every row knit. So that's 2, 4, 6 rows, and the first 4 stitches are knit in garter stitch, and the last 4 stitches or in garter stitch. So that's going to be the edge of the blanket on each side. So for this pattern, the first 3 rows are all the same, exactly the same. So you're going to knit 4 stitches, and I forgot to mention, I am knitting with 2 strands of a double knitting yarn to make it like chunky. It'll be like equivalent to chunky, I think. But that's what I normally do my baby blankets in. I usually knit 2 strands together. And this was, if I can get the label for it, the wool I'm using is Yarn Smith's Create Baby Double Knit. This is not the actual label of this one. I don't know where I've put it, because this was off another one with baby lemon. But the colour just says baby blue on it. And this comes from Wool Warehouse. That's where you get that wool from. So we've knit the first 4 stitches. And the next 4 stitches, for the last row I did was purl on that side, but I'm going to do purl to keep the pattern right here. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. Then knit 4. And then purl 4 again. You don't follow the stitch that was below there, you follow this one below that. So the 3 rows are the same, and the 4th row is the row that makes that line across the it's like a rib. So we're going to carry on knitting across the row, knitting 4 stitches and purling 4 stitches. And I will meet you at the end of that row. And now we are at our last 8 stitches, which is just all knit. And so that is the first row of the pattern. As you can see there, the garter over the stocking stitch to give that effect. You can have like that there. And the next row is exactly the same as that first row. You knit 4. I've got that in the way. And you're going to purl 4 and then knit 4. Knit 4. I'm sorry about the ends of these, I keep clattering on my table. I can't get them out the way. They should have something rubbery on the end so it didn't make a noise. I'll have to find something to add on to the end so they don't make so much noise when I'm using them on a tutorial. And so you just carry on across the row, knitting 4 and purling 4. That's knitting 4. I've knitted 8 there, I should have purled. I'll have to take that out. Do that again. Purl 4. It's very easy to get distracted when you come to the row like that where you have a purl, to do a purl like what I just did wrong before. But you're following the stitch below that garter, you're following this stitch here, not that one. And I will meet you at the end of that row. Now at the last 8 stitches, which are all knit stitches. There, as you can see, the pattern starting to take shape. A bit more on that side. And the next row, which is the third row, is exactly the same as the 2 rows you've just done. You're knitting 4 stitches. Purling 4 stitches. And knitting 4 stitches again, so it's just knit 4, purl 4 all the way across the row to your last 8 stitches. So we are now at the last 8 stitches, which we are going to knit across. So that's the 4 stitches of the pattern, and the last 4 stitches are the edge of the blanket. Oops, got 2 strands together there. So that is the first 3 rows to the pattern, and now we're going to do the 4th row, which is the only row that's different. We're going to do the opposite of what is shown. So we're going to knit the first 4 stitches for the edge, and the next row, which we would have been doing purl, we're going to do knit, and then the 4 stitches that would have been knit, we're going to do purl. So we're just doing the opposite of what we were doing before. So this is knit 4, and now that's the purl, so we're going to knit over those 4 stitches. And where the knit is, we're going to purl over those ones. And again, we're going to knit over the purl. And purl over the knit. And I will meet you at the end of that row. And I'm at my last 8 stitches, and I'm going to purl 4. And then knit the last 4 stitches. So that is how the pattern is coming out. As you can see, I'll get some wool off there, it's a bit tight. That's it. That's how the pattern is coming out. That's one side, and that's the other side. As you can see, it's very reversible. It's exactly the same on both sides, which is the way I like my blankets. I will do an odd 1 or 2 where they're not reversible, but if I can find a pattern that's reversible, that's what I will use. And for anyone that might be interested in these, I will go and get one of my other needles and show you the difference in the length. So you can see there's a bit extra length in these ones. That's why I like them, because the stitches aren't squashed up so much on them. And these are very hard to find actually, and they're quite expensive as well. I think I paid practically £10. I think it was £9 something, £9.90 something for this pair of 7mm ones, but they are very hard to find. I couldn't find any with what you use for double knitting, like 325mm or 4mm, or even 5. I think when I got these ones, I think there was 6mm, 7mm, what these ones are, and I think there was a 10mm, or there was some very small sizes, very fine sizes, like 2.5mm or something like that. But I've only been able to find them on Amazon, or there's another site called, I think it's called Laughing Hens, if anyone was interested in getting them. Like I say, they do curl like that, they won't straighten. I've tried putting them into practically boiling water. I've even put a cloth over and ironed over it on a hot iron, and they're very strong, the cable, they just will not straighten. But you don't notice it when you're knitting. You're knitting like this, and the stitches just coming up one onto the other. So that is my next baby blanket. I'll show you more when I get more of it done. But for anyone that wants to write the instructions down, I have it here. Just this part here, that's from another blanket there that I've already have a pattern out for. And this one is just, I've just got Garter rib baby blanket, 7mm cabled needles, and two, like I showed you, two lots of double knitting together. And I've got cast on 96 stitches, knitting garter stitch for 6 rows, and then row 1 is knit 4, purl 4, knit 4 to the end of the row, and rows 2 and 3 are exactly the same as row 1, and then row 4 is knit 8 and then purl 4, knit 4 to the end of the row. And that is all there is, 4 rows to the pattern, until you get to the length you want, which mine will be 30 inches, and then you knit 6 rows of garter. Well, you knit 5 rows of garter stitch, and then the 6 rows is the cast off row. But there will be more down here when I get that far. So my blanket now measures practically 19 inches, and I am making this to 30 inches, and as the little bit at the bottom, the start of the blanket, the few 6 rows of garter stitches around about an inch. So I have another 10 inches to knit in the pattern, and then there will be the 6 rows to finish it off with. It'll actually be 5 rows of garter, and the 6th row will be the casting off row. So I have finished the first 2 balls, because I'm using 2 strands of double knitting together. I've finished the 2 balls, and I'm about to start on another 2 balls, and I'm going to show you a little tip for this. I don't do magic knots, because I have found to my own cost that sometimes they come loose. And I have another needle here somewhere, and I've left a long end on here, and I'm going to knit up to this line down here where the 4 garter stitch finishes here, with what is left of the wool. Two, 3, 4, and doesn't matter which side you leave the wool on because the pattern is both the same. But see, this is, pretend this is the right side and that's the wrong side. So I have a long end like that, and I'm going to join the new ball on here and leave quite a good long length for sewing in afterwards. And I have to knit, or purl actually, from here. I have to purl the next 4 stitches. And the next stitches will be knit. And that is where I've joined the yarn. And I am going to, when I finish, I'm just going to fasten this together like that, so it doesn't come loose. And when I finish the blanket, I will weave one end down. It's like a seam, but it's not a seam, but it's like a way that the stitches are changing. So I'm going to weave that so far down there, and that one, when I've done a few more rows, I'll weave it up that way, and then it won't be seen. If you leave it at the end, you can have where you have to stitch it in, it's more noticeable. But if you do it where the stitches change and you have sort of like a line down there, as you can see there, that's the best place to do that. So that was just a little bit of information for anyone who doesn't know about joining yarns and that. So anyway, I'm going to knit this for another 10 inches, and then I will be back to tell you how to finish it off. So I have almost finished the blanket. I'm going to show you how to get rid of this, the ends where I had to join in a new ball. And as I told you, I knitted across the first 4 stitches so that the extra yarn where you finished it off was taken up in the line of where the stitches change. So I've done one side there, and I knotted it first to make sure it was tight and it won't come out. And then all I did was go through the stitches, go down a few stitches on the, pull it tight. That's a few of the stitches, and then just go down a few like that. Got that tied in a knot there. And then just pull it till it lines up with the, and then just cut off the excess. I can find the end, that's it. And that is how you get rid of the ends. And now I have knit this until it measures, I'll take it down a little bit, till it measures 29 inches, as you can see. And now I'm going to finish it off with 5 rows, just knit. I finished on the 3rd row of the pattern, so I'm not going to do the 4th row where I put these things over. I'm just going to knit across. I'm just going to knit across for 5 rows. Just plain simple garter stitch all the way across. And I'm going to do that for 5 rows, and then I'll come back and show you the way I cast it off. Now I'm casting off the stitches, and you can see the few that I've cast off here, there's a lot of give in them, which is what you want. So when you're casting the stitches off, you're going to take the stitch over, but don't pull any tightness at all, just leave it exactly the way it falls. I have to get some wool out here, they'll end up tight. So you just knit, take the stitch over and leave it without any tightening at all. If you tighten it, it will pull it in, and the cast off edge will look tighter than the rest of the blanket. The stitches are quite slack. As you can see, there's no tightness there at all, there's plenty of stretch in it. And that's how I'm going to cast off, and I've just missed part of the stitch. I'll have to take that one back again. Now just keep on casting off in that way to the end of the row. So that's the cast off edge on my blanket, nice and loose. Usually when you cast off, just doing stocking stitch all the way across, if you keep tightening the stitches as you're casting off, it ends up pulling it in, so that end would be a lot shorter than the other end. The two ends together there, as you can see, they're both the same. So that's another blanket to add to my patterns. I will be making a pattern for this, but probably doing 1 or 2 more to go with it, and I just have 2 ends to sew in here, and that's completely finished. So if you'd like to see more anytime, give it a thumbs up and subscribe. Bye for now.